Yeah,
Hello.
yes, I'm with you. Am I right in that you wanted to say that it looks like your earlier years of your academic journey were quite very smooth, irrespective of the fact that you had to move from one place to another. It sounds like it was quite a beautiful sailing.
Yeah, Sam, I think the only way, I think the most maybe appropriate way is to say, look, I coped. I coped very well with the changes. Let me not give an impression that it was all smooth sailing. It wasn't. It was tough. My landing in Mahlakeng was not easy. As I was saying, I was bullied left, right, and center. And one of the things I learned there was to stand up for myself and say, no, this shall not happen. I learned pretty quickly to say I have to fight fire with fire here. So,
but I'm very glad that did not change your personality, because you are forever one person that whenever I think of Ntate, I just think of that smile that is forever out there, very well receiving, being receptive to everyone. But you want to tell me inside you there is a powerhouse.
Well, there's a personality trait there. There's a stubbornness that is right there to say, you know what, I'm fairly relaxed, fairly accommodating, but don't push me beyond a certain point. Because if you push me beyond a certain point, I have to push back.
Yeah. And I can imagine that became even more enforced at Teflop, because that's another dynamic environment.
But Teflop, to be honest, was a smoother transition, I must say. It was difficult in the sense that academically it was challenging. And what made it even more challenging, it was the huge social environment that one had to manage very carefully with your studies, because if you did not, you could find yourself, failing your courses because too much into the social life of campus. And that was the challenge. That we came from boarding school where we were told when to sleep, when to wake up, what to eat every day. And you were thrown into an environment where people simply did not care whether you went to class or did not go to class, whether you submitted an assignment or did not. You told, here's your assignment, here's the date.
Too much freedom, yeah?
So much freedom. And if you can't handle that, you run into trouble. So that was the challenges of university.
And to take you back a little bit, the high school, was it the boys' high school or was it mixed?
No, it was mixed.
It was mixed. Okay. Then the getting into university wasn't that much of a shock, or too much of being too happy to be able now to mingle with everyone. Yeah. And tell me, while you are in that queue, you said you arrived there planning to go and enroll for BProc, and then somebody said that you might not be financed because the country is not interested in black lawyers. I'm just assuming that was the reason behind.
Yeah, and Sam, remember, right? By that time, who's paying for my studies is my grandfather. Because by that, my father passed away many years ago. I remember getting my matric results. And during the year, when you're doing matric, you are applying for bursaries left, right, and center. And because you're going to study law or second choice, HR, nobody's interested. People who go for the sciences are the ones who get, the bursaries. So I go to Teflop with my grandfather being the sponsor. And I remember looking him in the eye and saying, look, I have tried everything. I don't have funding for university. Would you pay for my first year? And I can assure you I would work as hard as I can to pass, because I am told that it's easy to get a bursary for this kind of courses when you do your second year.
Mm.
And then he agrees. He said, fine, I can only pay for 1 year anyway, so go for it. So that's why the type of course I had to take was very important. I wouldn't take something that would make it difficult for me to get funding for second year. So that's why when I heard that, you're going to struggle with a bursary, with a law degree, I switched immediately. But then I must tell you that I studied that course. It prepared me for a career in HR, and if you ask me today, I have no regrets at all. In fact, I think I have done much, much better than I would have done with a law degree. I think in comparison, I would have been a lousy lawyer.
Yeah, that person that challenged you with the choice in that queue was an angel, man.
Yeah, he
He
did me a great favor.
Yeah, and indeed you did get the bursary in the second year.
In the second year, I got a bursary from the Chamber of Mines.
Wow.
Until I finished my junior degree.
And what was the junior degree called?
It was a beyond degree,
yes.
Majored in political science and industrial psychology.
Oh, okay. So at least you tried to balance the two in the political science and industrial psychology. I mean, they're trying to serve both HR and politics. I mean, the law to a certain extent.
Yeah.
What a combination that they were. And so if a young person is listening out there, I mean, we always ask this. It's almost like a standard question now. Other than what you have stated, what other things you found them to be just so much challenging that you had to be alert to? Otherwise, life would have just gone messy on campus.
On campus, yeah. I mean, to be honest, Sam, what I learned there is that I was an average, or let me say typical South African student. I belonged to a soccer club. We played soccer Saturday, Sunday. We had parties, most Saturday evenings. So I did all that. But when it came time to focus on my studies, I did that. I did that. I remember because I had to submit an assignment. I remember I would be in the library. On Friday at like 3, 4, and the library would be completely empty. And I'd be going through doing my references and stuff like that. In that environment, I must tell you, when it came to, here's time for the test, I was prepared for the test. Here's time to submit an assignment, I submitted my assignment. When we were at university, there was this thing to say, he finished his degree record time. So
yes.
I'm one of those students who finished their degree record time.
3 years flat.
3 years flat.
Yeah.
3 years flat.
And then the old man must have been very happy when you fulfilled the promise when you got the bursary.
The old man was besides the moon. I mean, my old man, Sam, was so much interested in my education, even from high school. It's amazing, When I speak about my grandfather, I say to people, he is the man who made me what I am today. When I went to high school, boarding school, I never thought I'm intelligent or anything. I was like, I think I'm okay. And I remember first semester coming back home, my grandfather would say, when are your results coming? When are your results coming? And I was like, he was so interested in that. And I looked at him and said, hey, I need to take my studies seriously.
Yeah.
And the results came, and he looked at the results. You are number 1 in class.
Wow.
And I could see his face just beaming. So, he was like, and I looked at this and I was like, he really really cares about my education. He really cares about me. You know, and I remember at some point, I hit a wobble at high school. I can't remember what was happening, you know, and he got the results and he said, "You are number 2 in class. What happened? Who is number 1? And I had to explain to him, and he was like, no, you need to go back to your position. So,
Yeah.
I mean...
So he was your accountability partner?
He was my accountability partner. I mean, I grew up with that sense of saying, I cannot disappoint my grandfather. He has sacrificed a lot for me. So even at university, I was like, you know what, I mean, during our time, we had strikes where we would be chased away from campus, we would come back home and spend weeks at home because we were protesting against Bantu education. And that used to depress me, and my grandfather would call me aside and say, no, don't worry. Things would come right. And as soon as we get a notification that, okay, schools are open, you can go back, I'm on the train back to school. So, I mean, record time, I was done. And,
Wow. And that bursary from the Chamber of Mines, did it have any conditions post-studies?
No, it did not. And funny enough is that, when I finished my junior degree, they wrote to me and said, look, they want to sponsor my honor studies. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, thank you very much, but I need to go and work now. I mean, I'm the second born in a family of 5. Then my younger brother came a little bit later, and I was like, it's nice. I can go on and do honors, but I've got the degree. Yeah. That should open a few doors. So let me go and work. I'll study part-time and let me try and assist my siblings, to go through the same journey as one.
Great one. And did we throw a big party for the old man? Did you have a big graduation party?
Yeah, I had a graduation party, but the old man was not there because he was old then. So, but I had my aunts and, my Rakadis there. We went to Teflop. We had a huge party. Beautiful.
And so where did this lead you to in terms of your first job?
So then, I come back home, I get my results, I've passed. Then I go to my sponsor. There was no obligation condition attached, but I said, look, I know you're my sponsor at the Chamber of Mines.
Yes.
Have you got employment for me? And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll employ you. And they gave me a job. The chamber used to have what they call the TEBA.
Oh, yes, TEBA, yes.
You remember TEBA?
I remember TEBA, yes. The recruitment, it was a recruitment agency.
Yeah, and TEBA was where I got employed in the administration there as a liaison officer, sort of liaison.
And I can imagine you were very educated, man, in those years with a degree in industrial psychology and political sciences.
I remember when I got there, my boss, because I was employed by his boss's bosses, in fact, I was employed at the Chamber of Mines in Main Street, and I was sent to Elof Street to go and work there. And my immediate boss at Elof Street did not know what to do with me. He did not even know how much to pay me. And the first conversation was like, we pay liaison officers $200 a month.
Yeah.
So how much must I pay you? I was like, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
Even I had no work experience. I did not know, how much.
You never applied for this job. You just came and say, I need to be employed.
So, and I was like, okay, look, pay me whatever you're paying other guys. We'll work this out as time goes on. We'll do some research and we will see what happens. My first salary, and I'm telling the truth, was like 200 rand a month.
Wow, with a degree.
In 1983, yeah.
Wow, sure.
But funny enough, it felt And it was a lot of money.
In those days,
It really
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, I was the best dressed person in town.
You could afford all the best clothing.
I could afford all those things, yeah. So I did that job for 18 months. And then towards the end of the 18 months, Anglo-American advertised positions for HR trainees, and I looked at that and I said, this is what I want now. Now I am embarking on a pure HR career.
Yeah.
And I applied and we were called for interviews, taken through assessment centers. We were many of us, many black graduates, and at the end of that process, we were called one by one to be given offers. And I walked in, and the HR manager then, I don't even know, like, oh, congratulations, you've been appointed as an HR trainee for Anglo-American.
Wow.
Here's your offer.
And Anglo-American then, I mean, that's a brand of note.
That was a brand of note. But listen to this. Then he says, by the way, the job is at President Steyn Gold Mine in Velkom.
What? Not at the headquarters.
Not at the headquarters. At the mine in Velkom, President Steyn Gold Mine. And I was like, that's okay. That's where the job is. That is where I am going. That is where I am going. When am I supposed to start? Well, you're starting 1st of August, 1985. So a day or so before then, I was on a train to Velkom in first class, sir.
First class train?
First class train, the kind of train you sleep in overnight.
Yeah.
So first class.
And you're going to Velkom for the first time in your life?
I'm going to Velkom for the first time. But my mode of transport makes me feel like, you have arrived. You're traveling first class. Going to Teflop, we used to do third class. And we spent the whole night. Sitting. No chance of sleeping at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And that was really your first real job.
That was my first real exposure to HR. So I was a trainee, like an intern. So moving from one area of HR, the HR department at the mine, learning about how HR is done, how is IR done, how is training done. So that was my foundation in building an HR career.
And where do you live now when you arrive there? They've acquired accommodation for you.
Well, Sam, I lived inside the hostel.
What?
I lived inside the hostel. So at the mine, but it was inside the hostel, but sort of separate accommodation from your standard mining employee accommodation. Because remember, in the mine, you had all levels of employees. You had people we call the indunas,
yes.
who had their own separate accommodation, were treated much better than most people. You had your professional people, from 1980 or so, you had professional people who were clerks, HR people. Those who stayed there, who did not stay in the merit quarters, had their own separate quarters inside the hostel, though. But it was good accommodation. I mean, we were about 4 in a room. So it was the accommodation I could not fault. Even at Durban, I used to stay inside the hostel at Durban. I decided I'm going to move. Instead of traveling from Tembisa to Durban every day, it's going to cost me a lot of money. I just moved into the hostel, played soccer, could come home over the weekend. So it was, that part was not a big deal with me at all.
But the traineeship that they gave you, it had some programs in it. It wasn't just jobbing.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was fairly structured, well structured. You had clearly worked out when you get here, these are the things you need to learn, this is the feedback you need to get. So it was well structured from that perspective. But Sam, I must tell you that if I look back on my career and I say, which job did I experience the most difficulty in, I would say it's that job.
Is it?
Yeah, that was tough. That was extremely tough. I mean, that in a sense helped me because it made me to start realizing, that this world is a tough place. My naivety was completely stripped off in that job. For one, I had my immediate superior was the training manager.
Yeah.
It was his responsibility to monitor my performance and to pass me off at the end of the training. And from day one, we had a huge problem, big problem with the guy. I can never, even today, understand what was driving him. One of the challenges we had with the guy was that he said to me, you know what, David, you're earning a lot of money. You're earning a lot of money, and I think you need to buy a car.
Wow.
And I looked at him, I said, you know what, like most young people, I would love to have a car one day, but I don't want a car now. Can't afford it. I'm still helping my younger brothers and sisters with their education. And besides, I don't even have a driver's license. And this guy says, no, but you're earning a lot of money. Sam, I moved from Deba. I think when I left Deba, I was earning 600 or so, or less than 600. And I got to Anglo-American President's Day, and I was earning 1,300 a month. Like a millionaire.
And here somebody wants to punch holes into this beautiful...
And this guy was like, you're earning a lot of money. You can afford to buy a car. And Sam, we had argument after argument.
But what was troubling him? Were you using the company's facilities for traveling?
No. Sam, to my training, I could finish the whole of my training at President's Day number 2, because that is where I was built. Because you had IR there, you had training there, you had personal administration, you had everything, And then you had President's Day Gold Mine 1, which was another mine with their fully fledged HR department, and then President's Day 4, fully fledged. So there was no need for transport because I could just walk to wherever I needed to be on a day-to-day basis. But this guy felt I needed to buy a car because I earned a lot of money. And because I refused to buy a car, what he did, first he said, okay, you know what, from now on, I'm putting this into your performance contract that you need to get a license. Can you imagine that? Performance contract. So obviously, I did not get a license at the time. He wanted me to get a license. So it would be something that says, well, you've done well in all other areas, but because you don't have a license, I'm giving you a fake, And then winter would come and he would say, you know what, I'm transferring you to go and do this part of the training at President's Day number 1, and I don't want you to stay there. You must stay still here at number 2, and you must not use mine transport to go there. You must use taxis so that I can walk from the mine premises, a few kilometers to catch a taxi, normal taxi to stay in one. Because it was winter, it was extremely cold.
Sure. And in those days, there was this tendencies where if you come and you're a youngster and you seem to have acquired a bit of qualification, and people will react like, it's almost like you are being punished for being a better, clever black or something like that.
Because I think in a way you are a threat to these guys who attained to their position by virtue of their long years of service, not qualifications necessarily. So, and the guy was like, you know what, I'm going to make your life
What a miserable.
And he did exactly that.
Sure. But you were very determined not to fail in this career. Ne?
And remember what I said initially, if you push me to a certain point, this stubborn streak kicked in, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to get a license because you say so. You can fail me if you want. So 6 months after 6 months, he would fail. Why? Because of license, you know. And I decided to get a license in my own time when I felt like it. You know, and I got my license in Velcom, but not because of him. You know, because I felt now it is time to get a license. But by then, my training was a complete disaster. You know, because it was like, I mean, you've been here for a year, and it has been fail after fail after fail after fail.
And then there's nobody from the head office that is sort of like taking care of you. How are you doing at the Princeton Mines?
That to me was the greatest disappointment and the mystery, because those guys simply dumped me, and that was the end of it. So as I'm getting into conflict with this guy, the only people I could appeal to was the HR manager at the mine. And I must tell you, we had one meeting, and I realized that, you know what, maybe you're on your own here. You're not going to get help from anyone in this mine. Because we went to the HR manager, and it was like, oh, Abe, we're having some problems. And I said, yeah, we're having some problems. So according to you, Abe, what are the sources of the problem? I said, look, there's one problem. One problem only, that my boss is forcing me to buy a car. So in order to buy a car, I must get a license. And I don't think that has got to do anything with my job at all. And I'm resisting that, because I can do my job fairly well without having a car. And it was one of those conversations where people say, okay, fine, let's have a chat to your boss, have a chat to the boss, and then the boss comes and say, okay, let's go. And I said, so how is the matter resolved? Oh, well, they're saying we must talk and resolve the matter. I said, but we're not going to resolve the matter. you are determined I must get a license, and I'm determined not to get it because you say I must get it. So how are we going to resolve this? We came here because we thought maybe some third-party intervention would help. So that did not help, sir. So when the training program came to an end, and I was called to say, Amy, your training program has come to an end. We really don't have space for you in this mine, so we're terminating your services. I was not surprised. Not surprised at all. You know.
So indeed you were a threat.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's hold it there, and when we come back, we'll take it forward from there. Great stuff. Interesting. Some insightful stories for the beginning, people who enter the world of work for the first time. It doesn't always go the way you're expected to be.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, we'll be back.